It's been almost 2 years since I created the composition rulers, and a lot has changed in the way I use them to create my lettering compositions. After 2 years of using this lettering tool, I have found the best way to use them, and that is what I'm going to share with you in this video. Before we start, I know a lot of you have been asking me to make a real-time process video of me using these composition rulers because all of my process videos that I post on Instagram are usually fast-forwarded, which is very difficult to follow along. So I'm making this video especially for you who requested for me to do a real-time process video. So every clip of using the composition ruler for this video won't be fast-forwarded 10 times, 20 times, even 30 times like what I normally do for my process videos. But for the part wherein I'm going to fill in the letters, that part will be fast-forwarded because I don't want this video to be more than an hour long. I'm sure you don't want that too. You can actually follow along as you watch this video because this is going to be a draw with me type of video. So if you have your composition rulers, grab a pencil and a paper and follow along. For those who don't know what a composition ruler is, it is a lettering tool that I designed to help you create your guides and your guide shapes easily and accurately. I used to be very intimidated to create lettering composition and lettering layouts because it takes so much time to draw your layouts and it is impossible to sketch your guides accurately. So I always end up with lettering compositions that are not aligned or not balanced. So I engineered a lettering tool to make the whole process easier and enjoyable. There are two available sizes. You have the 3-inch composition ruler and you have the 5-inch composition ruler. The size represents the maximum width for the shapes that you could draw using the rulers. Both rulers function the same, but they have slightly different shapes that you could draw using them. I'll put more details in the description below and where you could get one. Now, let's start with the video. Before we do the actual composition, let me first share with you the features of the composition rulers so that it will be easier for you to understand how to use them later on. First is the vertical center guide. This is the reference line for the center of the shapes. You have to use this guide every time you draw a shape to make sure that all of your shapes will be perfectly centered. If not, your lettering composition may not look balanced later on once you finish. That is why this guide is very important. Next, we have the measurement markers on top and at the bottom of your composition rulers. These are the series of holes on the top and mid-bottom part of the composition ruler. These holes are 1/2 inch apart and are used to measure your grid. To use the measurement markers, position your composition ruler on your paper, hold it down, and mark the holes on top and bottom. Then connect them later to build your grid. Next is the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch measurement guides. The measurement markers allow you to create a 1/2 inch grid. But if you want a smaller grid size, you can use the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch measurement guides to make a smaller grid. Simply align the top and bottom markers of the 1/4 measurement guide to your vertical center and mark the holes on the top and bottom measurement markers. To make the grid even smaller, you could use the 1/8 measurement guide to do the same thing. Next, we have the main composition shapes. These are the set of larger shapes that you could draw using your composition ruler. The 3-inch and the 5-inch composition rulers have some similar and different shapes. Let us go through each one of them to help you familiarize the possible shapes you could draw using the composition ruler. First one is the arc. Both sizes have the same arc shape. You can draw different bridge shapes using this template. Second, you have the roof. This shape is only present in the 3-inch composition ruler. You can use this shape to draw diamonds, hexagons, bow ties, roof, and rotated roof. Next, you have the bell curve. This shape is only present in the 5-inch composition ruler. This is a symmetric shape that allows you to draw outlines similar to vintage signs. Next, you have the rectangles, which is the most common shape to use for your lettering layouts. Both sizes have this basic shape. Next, we have the table for 2. This is my favorite shape to use if I have a word between two words that have the same number of letters. This is only available in the 3-inch composition ruler. Next is the angled shape. Both the 3-inch and the 5-inch composition ruler have this shape, but in different versions. Let's start with the 3 inches version. The shape looks like a skewed rectangle with smaller angled shapes on opposite corners. You can draw ramps with this shape, and when you flip it over, you'll get the reflection of that shape, which allows you to draw a roof, megaphone, diamond, hexagon, and a bow tie shape. For the 5 inches version, the shape on the 5-inch composition ruler looks like a bow tie. You can draw the same shapes as the 3 inches version without flipping the ruler. Next, we have the wave. The wave shape is present on both composition ruler sizes. You can use this shape to draw wave shapes or cut a rectangular block with a wave shape. I often use this template to draw ribbons. Next, we have the circular set. Both sizes have identical looking circular sets, but the diameters are different. You can use this template to draw circular shapes or semicircle shapes. If you notice, there is a tiny hole in this circular set. That is the reference center point for your circle shapes. You can mark that hole too so that it'll be easy for you to locate the reference center when you want to adjust a shape later on. Now let's take a look at the mini composition shapes. The 3-inch composition ruler has 6 mini shapes, and the 5-inch composition ruler has 3 mini shapes. You actually don't need a lot of smaller shapes in your composition ruler because you can use the main composition shapes and then use the measurement markers to cut them shorter. So those are the features of the composition ruler and the different shapes that you could draw using them. Now let me show you the best way on how you could use your composition ruler. But of course, this is not the only way to use them. You could use the composition rulers at a different way if you're not comfortable following how I use them right now. This is the part of the video wherein you can follow along if you have a composition ruler with you. I do encourage you to follow along, so please hit pause on this video first, then grab a pencil, a paper, and your composition ruler before hitting play. How to use a composition ruler. Every lettering composition starts with a quote, then you start planning your composition around that quote. You divide your quote, you pick the important words that you want to highlight, then you sketch possible layouts and pick lettering styles, then you pick colors and add decorations. I won't show you that part of the process because this video is about using the composition ruler, and those are the topics that I teach in my lettering composition workshop. So for this video, I'm going to work on the quote, "Do not fear, I am with you," Isaiah 41:10. And I've already chosen the layout to do for this quote. Do you have your pencil, paper, and composition ruler with you right now? Perfect, so here are the steps. Step number 1, position your composition ruler to the center of your paper. Make sure that your composition ruler is centered because if it is not, then your entire lettering composition won't be centered later on. But if you want to make sure that your work will be perfectly centered, get a ruler and measure the center of your paper and draw the vertical center. Then align your vertical center guide of your composition ruler to the center line you just drew. Step number 2, hold down your composition ruler and then mark each hole of your measurement markers. Don't forget about the bottom part. You have to mark both the top and the bottom measurement markers. And make sure that you won't move the composition ruler before you're done marking the 1/2 inch markings. If you accidentally moved it, even just a little, you have to repeat this step because you won't have straight lines for your grid if that happens. If you want your grid to be smaller, you could use the 1/4 measurement guide to reduce its size. Here's how you do it. Align the top and bottom measurement guides to your vertical center guide. Then mark both the top and bottom measurement markers like what you did earlier. If you want to make your grid even smaller, you could use the 1/8 guide, but I personally rarely use that guide. Step number 3, define the width of your lettering composition and then use the measurement markings to draw the vertical boundaries of your composition. And draw your vertical center guideline too if you didn't use a ruler on step number 1. For this lettering composition, I think I'm going to give it a 4-inch width, so I won't draw the boundaries on the first and last measurement markers. If you notice, I did not connect all of my measurement markers. The reason why I don't do that is because I don't want my work area to look very messy with all that lines. We will use the other measurement markers for later. Step number 4, draw your shapes. I often start with the center shape first because it'll be easier for me to make sure that my lettering composition will be vertically centered. For the layout that I'll be working on today, that will be the shape for the words I am. Before I use a composition ruler, I use a pencil first to mark the top and bottom boundary of the center line, to make it easier for me to determine the size that I want for my shape. After making those tiny markings, I will use a composition ruler to draw the top and bottom part of my first shape. So every time you will be drawing any shape using the composition ruler, make sure you always align the vertical center guide so that every time you draw a shape, it will always be centered. So I'm aligning the rectangular shape of the composition ruler to the vertical center and the tiny marking that we just made, and draw the top part of the shape. Next, let's do the bottom part, which is an arc. So I'm aligning the arc shape of the composition ruler to the vertical center and the other tiny marking, then I draw the bottom arc. There. Next, you do the same for the remaining shapes. Let's do the shape below it next. Mark how tall you want the shape to be. Make sure you give some space between it and the shape you just drew. Now we use a composition ruler. Align the vertical center before drawing the shape. Now, since this shape won't be as wide as the first one we drew, I'm just going to draw a shorter line for this. Same goes for the bottom part of the shape. Now we want to draw the left and right side of the box. This is when we will be using the other measurement markings. For me, I think 3 inches would be perfect. So I'll measure 1.5 inches from the center on both sides to make it centered. When I'm drawing lines for this, I don't draw the whole line from the top to the bottom of the measurement markers. I only draw what I need so that my work area won't look too messy. Next, let's do the shape above the first shape that we did. It's going to be a small wave shape for the word for. Both the 3-inch and the 5-inch composition rulers have the same shape, but I'm going to use the 3-inch composition ruler because the one on the 5-inch composition ruler is wider and I'll need something that's smaller. So let me grab my 3-inch composition ruler to draw that shape. Use a pencil first to mark how far you want it from your biggest shape. Then align the composition ruler and draw that wave shape. If you don't have the 3-inch composition ruler, you could use a 5-inch composition ruler and then use the measurement markers to cut that shape shorter. Now, let's do the topmost shape next. It's a circular shape, so we'll use a circular set of shapes on the 5-inch composition ruler. But let's make a mark first of where we want to position this shape on our layout. For me, I want the small wave shape to be centered between the shape above it and below it. Now we use a composition ruler to draw the circular shape by aligning the composition ruler to the vertical center line. Notice this tiny hole? I always mark this too so that I have the reference point for my circles if I were to redraw those circular shapes later. For example, I want to erase my guide later on, and then I erase part of that circular shape that I did. It'll be easier for me to redraw that exact circular shape at the exact position when I have that reference point for the center of my circles. Next, we do the last 2 bottom shapes. Mark the positions, align the composition ruler, and draw your shapes. Use the measurement markings to cut these shapes shorter. So I also plan on adding decorations to this work. So I'll use the composition ruler to mark the boundary to make sure that after adding my decorations, my lettering composition will look symmetric and balanced. So that's how you use the composition rulers to draw your layout shapes. Right now, this is how I use the composition ruler because I find it the most efficient way to draw my layout. I hope you were able to follow along with me. If you did, make sure you share that photo on Instagram and then tag me so that I'll be able to see your work. Next thing for me to do is to sketch my letters and then ink it and then add decorations. Enjoy the rest of the process video. I am going to fast forward this part because I don't want my video to be more than an hour long. So here is my final work. I want to see your work too, so please share your work on your Instagram and then tag me so that I could check them out. That's it for this video. If you have any questions about the composition ruler, just comment them down below. And if you want to get the composition ruler, here's where you could get them. As of today, March of 2020, you can get them from Amazon if you are in the United States, Ziply or Stickerrific if you are from Malaysia, Calligrafina's website if you are from Indonesia, Schriftspielerei if you are from Switzerland, and my website, ruhai.com, if you are from the Philippines or the rest of the world. We do ship internationally. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned from this video and you are encouraged to create something. Go give this video a thumbs up if you've reached to this point of this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram to stay updated with my work and the release of my new rulers. Yes, I have a new ruler coming out. If you want to know when my new rulers will be released, make sure you follow me so that you'll know exactly when I'm going to release that ruler. I'm very excited about it, so I hope you are too. That's it for now. I'll see you on my next video. Bye.